And here we are, here we are for another discussion about another movie. And this one is we're not going too far back for this one. The Return of the Good Guy, or whatever. The Last Jedi is what we're going to be talking about. Big time movie, right? It's the latest in the Star Wars saga. So we have Daisy Ridley returning, Mark Hamill finally being a bigger part of the story. Carrie Fisher, God rest her soul, is a huge part of the movie. John Boyega is kind of a big part of the movie, and Adam Driver. Right. And then the newcomer, she plays Rose, Kelly Marie Tran. Yeah. So, what I'd like to focus on is first let's just kind of give in, no spoilers, just your overall experience.
Okay, so a little background for me in Star Wars. So, like most nerds who grew up in the 80s, and I was definitely in the nerdy category of the 80s and early 90s. I loved Star Wars. I never had problems with Ewoks. I was like full Star Wars fan. Like, I liked all of it from beginning to end. I had no complaints about any of it. Ditto. When Lucas re-released them in the theaters, I started having problems. When he, his special editions where he added like all the CG and stuff, and I was like, that's when I started had trouble with Star Wars. And then the prequels, I wasn't the biggest fan. Not really a fan of a lot of it. So me and a buddy, we started writing a screenplay for this movie that we had called Boba Fett the Movie. And it's about these three kids that grew up loving Star Wars, and one of them builds a Boba Fett suit that actually works. And so it was this kind of crossover thing, like superhero, real world superhero meets Star Wars fandom. Nice. And basically the climax of the movie is Lucas builds this Star Wars theme park, and they're going to make episodes 7, 8, and 9. And so Boba Fett, the kid Brian who builds this Boba Fett suit, he gets to work at the giant theme park, and they have a real working like Death Star throne room, and like the real working like Sarlacc pit and all this stuff.
Wow, so I never heard this.
So yeah, great. so they're living out the dream, right? But they're all frustrated. Boba Fett, he's frustrated because episodes 7, 8, 9, according to him, are terrible. And their buddy has written this awesome sequels. They're awesome. You never get to hear what happens in them, but it's just like, this is the true realization of everything that is Star Wars. Oh. So in the end, what ends up happening is they're in the Death Star throne room, and Lucas decides to just walk away from Star Wars. And so it's like this face off with Lucas.
Wow.
and Lucas just takes he has the only copy of his screenplays on this pen drive, and he just throws it off the catwalk, So like that was the whole thing. It's like, it's time for us to make this is
this is before he actually did walk away from Star Wars.
Right. Yes. And the idea was make your own myth. That was the whole thing. It was like Lucas, the reason he made Star Wars is because he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon. He wanted to remake Flash Gordon, couldn't get the rights to him, and he wanted to change Ming the Merciless, which I guess was one of the villains or the villain or something. So he couldn't get the rights,
right?
In real life. Yeah. In real life, he wanted to make a Flash Gordon remake and realized it wasn't going to work for legal reasons, so he made his own myth. And so the whole premise of Boba Fett the movie was, move on. Let's tell a new story. Let's start over here. And there were moments in that screenplay, honestly, I think we should probably dig it out because it's really good. Like there are moments that are really good. I know I'm biased, but like a lot of this stuff, like especially seeing how it's played out now that Disney has Star Wars. I stand by everything we did in that little, fan screenplay or whatever.
Man.
So
I like it.
So that's my backstory coming into this. And so when I watched The Force Awakens, at first I was just like, well, yeah, okay, that was all right. And the more I thought about it, the more me and my daughter talked about it, ironically, outside of the theater,
Yeah.
with just like this just is just a recap of everything we've already done, asked and answered. You know, this is redundant. This movie is totally redundant.
Yeah.
And so coming into Last Jedi, I was not optimistic because it had to inherit whatever happened in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I was one of the few people that actually liked Rogue One. I thought it was fine. I thought it actually fit into the Star Wars universe. I didn't think it was perfect, but I liked it. I thought it was fun, and I loved the ending of it. Um, so yeah, I was so and Ryan Johnson did that, so I was like, oh well, maybe he'll be able to pull it off with Last Jedi. My buddies really liked it. One of the guys, the guy that wrote that screenplay with me, he liked it. He liked what Ryan Johnson did with this, so I was willing to give it a shot. And I having heard all his arguments for defending it, I'm just ready to move on. I'm done with Star Wars.
Oh wow! So you're done with Star Wars?
I mean, I'm done, but I'll probably still watch them. I mean, they're gonna still get me back in the theater because my kids or whatever.
It's very interesting that you say that, because I watched this twice, and after the second time watching it, I had this epiphany where it was like, oh, I'm an adult now,
Right.
and something I used to love is dead. I guess
Yep.
that's just part of being an adult, you know?
Right.
But I think I think there we could talk about some serious problems with writing, and not just not just with this one, but I think a trend in how major movies are being, and well, now that Disney owns everything, how Disney approaches story. So for me, I felt like it was. I think this is one of the new movies. It was the best experience. I think it had some crucial points in it. I think it did a few scenes better than any of the new movies. It had some really, really good scenes, but the story just had. It just felt. I feel like these days, writers. There's no writers. It's directors that are they're going story. They're looking at storyboards and they're thinking about how awesome it's going to look. Because this movie was beautiful. You know?
Yeah, it definitely looked good.
It was.
I mean, the action scenes, looked good.
Oh yeah. But, yeah. Okay. We could get into that, but so I am torn. I do think there were some things that were done very well in this, and I think there were some really good ideas for the mythos, but just overall just totally not executed well at all. Now I did like it a little bit better than episode 7, or what was the last one, the new the Force Awakens, in that there were things in that made me kind of hate life. This one it was pretty innocuous as far as like when I go back and think about it. Yes, there were things that really irritated me, but when I was watching it, there was nothing really. Well, okay, well, I take that back. This had a Stranger Things episode 7 in it.
Oh, it has multiple Stranger Things episode 7 in it for me. Yeah. So do you mind if I read something that I wrote? Like I was going to post this as a comment on someone else who liked the movie, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hold this. I don't want to actually throw that, because they liked it, more power to them. But so here's what I said. I said, first of all, I hated Force Awakens. The First Order's sudden rise to a power even beyond the Empire makes absolutely no sense to me. It took Sidious so much time, political effort, and the inertia of centuries of dark arts to yield one mobile Death Star. It took some unknown dark arts rebellion 30 years to build a base that destroys planets at an intergalactic level. This is the most cartoonish example of sequel escalation I can imagine. I prefer Rogue One. I didn't think it was perfect, but at least it made sense to me. Last Jedi is tainted by association for me because it has to inherit the stupidity of super duper duper star destroyers from Force Awakens. How, again, did this unknown First Order manage to become this industrial powerhouse so quickly right under the watchful eye of the victorious rebellion-turned Republic? The specifics of Last Jedi are good in the context of this absurd villain, but it feels like it's a myth out of its time, trying to answer questions that are asked and answered. self-sacrifice, prudence, resisting impulsive heroism, rekindling hope, fighting for what you love instead of trying to destroy what you hate. All good ideas in context.
Yes.
But the context itself is missing the point.
Yes.
Our enemy is not a monolithic other anymore. It's not the Third Reich. It's ISIS. It's Antifa. It's white nationalists. It's the alt-right and the SJW. It's a hidden hydra of barbarian tribal ideologies that push and pull us all in 1,000 different directions and pit us against each other. Star Wars is just no longer the myth that can adequately address this complexity, in my opinion. When Lucas made his vision of it, it was mythical, beautiful, and rousing. This current incarnation feels convenient, over the top, and redundant. So that's where I stand. You know, there are moments that I liked, but even the moments I like seem to be undermined later on in the film because there's so many twists. It's like, oh, the twist, you thought it. I mean, I watched Red Letter Media's half in the bag criticism. You know, it's 40 minutes of them just ranting. And one of the things they say is like, oh, you thought there was going to be a twist? Oh, well, double twist, no twist. You know, like
that. Well, see, but that was the whole, and the problem is that was I think that was the whole message. Is the whole message is there are no answers.
That's right.
And that's good. You know, I was like, and I think I really think that that's the postmodern message.
Yeah.
Is it's no longer like there's no good, everything's random. Now it's everything's random, and that's good.
That is so right, dude. There are just so many things in this movie that don't need to happen. So can we just dive into some of the plot holes?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So spoiler alert.
Spoilers from here on out.
Yes.
And there's just so many of these. Okay. This movie is taking such great pains to give Laura Dern her moment. And she plays the character fine. And in any other circumstance, like this would be fine. But it's really just this B plot about speaking truth to mansplaining. But the problem is they don't actually, you know, okay, like who is this random fighter pilot who's asking me what we're doing? You know, who's this flyboy? A dude who without the Force took down a weapon that could destroy every single ship and planet in the galaxy with press of a button. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of respect is in order for this guy. I don't know. You know, like you live in this stupid world in which you let that thing be built under your power. Hello. And now stupid flyboy saved the universe. Maybe just telling him, oh, our plan is to go to this planet. Oh, okay, cool. That sounds like a good plan. Yeah. That's all you have to do. Why create this, you know, hashed up conflict for no reason? And then the other thing, the absurdity of that chase, it's just so absurd. It's like the rules of this universe all of a sudden, like, wait, what universe are we in? Yeah. They're going impulse, like using Star Trek terminology. They're going to impulse power for 16 hours. Why can't one of the Imperial ships jump to light speed, get on the other side, and do a pincher move? Like someone said this in a YouTube comment. I'm like, that's the most, yes, why not? Because the whole time you're just like, something seems weird about this. How do they have the time to go to a freaking casino planet and come back? How do they have all that time? It's like, oh, right, there's light speed. Why doesn't one of these Imperial, a TIE fighter could go, like, what? None of the TIE fighters even around the ship. Oh, we can't catch up with them because they're so fast. It's when have rebel ships been fast? What is going on here? I'm so confused.
The word that came to my mind was plot device. There were just so many plot devices that were like bad plot devices that were used to further the narrative, just to further the script. They wanted to have these things, and they were
conflict.
Yes, contrived conflict, and they wanted to. There was so much activism in this movie. Like they wanted to. They were definitely. They wanted to have a feminist message. And let me say something about this. Like, I mean, it's obvious, right? That they wanted to infuse this movie with as many women as they could.
It's Ghostbusters Part 2, you know, the new Ghostbusters Part 2. And it just...
But I guess my thing is, like, I wouldn't mind that, except that I feel like, because I believe that women can be more wise than men. I do believe there's a certain impulsivity, a certain emotional, like physical interaction that men they do. Women can be wiser, but Laura Dern and actually I think they portrayed that well with Leia. I think her role was fine, but Laura Dern's character and some of these other characters, like first of all, like you said, she should have shared the secret with him. I felt like the only reason she wasn't telling him was because they were hiding it from the audience. And
yes, right.
So plot device, contrived.
And to try that conflict and get the mansplaining reaction thing. Like, oh, I don't have to explain myself to you because you're a man.
But they bring it to a petty level. And then for some reason, throw in this line at the end. First of all, they used the word, she's like fly boy. And then at the end, she's like, yeah, I really like him. It was almost this like weird flirtatious thing between them. Like she was doing it because she kind of liked him, like,
oh, interesting. Well, I actually didn't get that. I thought it was more of a, like, she was like, I like his spunk. Like, that's the way I took that. Like, I didn't take it in a flirty way, but interesting.
Yeah. There was just some kind of tension between them that there was no wise leadership.
Right. She was being a bad leader in that moment.
She was terrible.
There was no reason to hide that information from the people who are following you. You're going to follow somebody into the jaws of hell. You need to know. Now, there are times you don't need to know because it's going to leak, whatever. Like, that's not, but this isn't one of those times. There's no reason to not tell.
Is she afraid to
create like dilemma?
Yeah. Is Poe Dameron some kind of spy?
Man. And and I guess I get tired of that whole thing. It's like, oh, we need to see women in a leadership role. Oh, you know what I mean? Like Zoe in Serenity, like River in Serenity, like Furiosa in Mad Max Fury Road, like I don't know, Ripley from Alien. Like, hello, like not like that. We're not willing to follow women into battle. We're not willing to follow morons into battle. And the way that the whole thing is just so moronic. The way, I mean, people pointed this out too. The bombers, like, oh, let's line them all up wing to wing so they all blow each other up. Like, what?
Not to mention, there's no gravity in space, folks. Like, how are those dropping? Like, why didn't those bombs just kind of go into space and like start hitting everybody? Kind of like that other ship did, right? When it blew up the one next to it because there's no gravity. But someone brought this up on YouTube, and I think it's genius. I think it was Jeremy Johns. And it's the same point that I heard Mark Hamill make about Force Awakens. He said, why didn't they have General Akbar go into light speed into the bad guy? Like, how awesome would have that been?
Or just even that, I thought back, I was thinking, like, is that even work in the Star Wars world? Because I was trying to think, like, what is light speed in the Star Wars world? Are they going into like a wormhole? And then I did remember that line that Han Solo says. He says, "Oh, we gotta be careful before we make the jump to light speed, kid. Don't want to jump into an asteroid or something like that, or space dust take us out." I was like, "Oh, okay." So it is possible for collisions at light speed, but it just seems like that's such a convenient thing. Like, they would never think, "Oh, we've got him back to the corner." Like, why didn't any of the other ships that were going to run out of gas do that? Like, someone else brings that point. Like, okay, well, just have with a medical frigate do it. The guy's dying anyway. Have him jump to light speed. Like,
or why did?
How's that not a contingency plan in these situations? Why is like, oh, I've got this. Nobody's ever thought of doing this before. It's called, a crazy Ivan or ramming speed. Like, hello.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's bad. Okay, and so then the whole what is the name for that? Where you have this whole boondoggle. Episode 7 of Stranger Things, where you completely waste Finn's character.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
in a side mission, and the whole point.
John Boyega is he's a great actor. Like, I like him a lot.
Right?
Why waste him on this boondoggle of a?
The whole thing is just it's a rabbit trail, and the reason is to play into this, men being impetuous narrative. Oh, that's how we saved the galaxy before, but we're doing it a new way now. Oh, by losing everything. Okay, cool. We're gonna fight for what we're gonna defend what we love or something. But then Luke still has to come out and save our butts in the end. So okay, cool.
And then John, what's his? I just lost his name. Uh,
Boyega.
no,
No.
the master hacker who's actually not the master hacker or whatever.
Oh, right.
That
Yeah.
I want to say character Benicio
Benicio
del
del
Toro.
Toro. Yeah.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro's character, like what? Like I could see it kind of working if he was like a Han Solo character that came in at the end and kind of helped, you know?
Right.
But he's just a complete throwaway character that's there to advance some exposition about everybody being
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, and again, like that kind of thing happening, you got these people who know what's going on. In the last 30 years, you haven't had informants like that who knew both sides of the story, who weren't building stuff for the I mean, the Republic is so inept that they almost kind of deserve to have the First Order take them over. I mean, 30 years in power and you let this thing happen under your noses. Ah, gosh, the whole premise is just so maddening.
Yeah.
It reminds me of old Greek myth. There's the cyclical view of universe. Like there's a battle between good and evil, but evil always wins, guys. Like, oh, okay. So what's the point? I mean, that was the whole point of getting out of that cyclical view of, that Mount Olympus ideal where Zeus just kind of does whatever the heck he wants, and he's just a malevolent, short-sighted god, and there's no, the little people. Well, they're always gonna, Zeus is always gonna get back in power. First Order, dark side's always gonna get back in power.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. I don't see how that's empowering, but
yeah, I was very disappointed by that. I guess it was fun to watch, but while you're watching it, you're hoping it has some kind of resolve afterwards. When you leave the theater, you think back on it and you're like, that whole thing was stupid. It was pointless. And then it all culminates in this, like, basically their whole adventure together, Rose and Finn's whole thing culminates in this last scene where she keeps him from being a hero so she can kiss him and tell real awkwardly and tell him she loves him. Like, what? Like the whole time, the whole adventure kind of made sense as a buddy adventure. And then you want to turn it into some kind of romance at the end? Why?
right. It's just yeah. Just the whole thing is just painful, man. And I mean, there was so much of that, like the animal rights angle when they're on the thing, like look at all these rich people and how they're subjugated, and the kids. I don't know, the kids that got to play those parts. It was just like, these kids look too clean to be slaves. Like, I felt everything's just too polished. I don't know. It's just
I felt like they went back to the school of like young Anakin to get these kids too, like why would you get more like terrible actors, like these kids, why would you and the whole crashing through everything, it just felt like a cartoon. A lot of the movie felt like a cartoon. The dogs or whatever they were, they felt like cartoonish.
And then it's like, she's like, that's the true miracle, or what? That's why we did this, letting that dog go. Okay, you came to this planet to let some dogs go while the rebellion's going to be shattered.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, spreading hope, I guess. Yeah.
And then, of course, for me, one of the biggest disappointments, although it was a fun scene, when I was experiencing it, was the death of Snoke. Like, what the hell do you bring Snoke in here for if you're just going to kill him like that?
Well, I mean, I think, my friend explained it this way. It's like, again, Rian Johnson inherited all this from J.J. Abrams. That J.J. Abrams and Disney are the main two villains here, because J.J. does not know how to, in my opinion and in my buddy's opinion, we all think that he does not know how to actually, what is the word? Translate something. He knows how to make a counterfeit. So he makes a counterfeit Spielberg with Super 8. He makes a counterfeit Star Trek with Star Trek. He makes a counterfeit Star Wars. It's basically the same thing, looks better. He does a great job making it look good. Superficial character development seems solid, but as soon as you go back and watch it twice, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a ton of seams here, and it doesn't really add up to anything. It's just it's an
counterfeiter.
It's an experience, you know. I mean, it feels like it at first. It's all sentiment though, and so you know, Rian Johnson has inherited all this from JJ. And so a lot of this misdirection, you know, killing off Snoke was just basically saying, you gave me crap to work with, well, I'm just ditching it. So we're starting from ground zero here. We killed all the things that you started, you know, that dumb, you know, Boba Fett wannabe character, you know, we'll just kill him, killer. That, you know, Snoke, we'll just kill him. So a lot of it's just getting rid of the absurdity, you know, of the things that were set up in the first one. You know, Rey, her parents don't matter. Like, but the problem is, the way with this sort of trilogy by committee, in the third one, JJ could come back and say, "Oh, just kidding, Snoke's not dead. He found a way to reanimate himself. Oh, just kidding. Rey's parents are Luke and Leia. Oh, incest. You know, I mean, like they can just do anything they want, from movie to movie, and so it's gonna be interesting to see what JJ does with the next one. Except it won't be, because it's not gonna be good.
Yeah. And well, the other problem I had with the movie is that as far as storytelling goes, I didn't feel, you know, when we talk about having math and having work or growth, you know, I didn't feel there were no equations here. I was watching Home Alone 2 with my kids and my wife, and there was a point in which like they set something up. You know, when the uncle is in the shower and he's doing that thing, like it's a scene that makes sense on its own, funny on its own merits, but sets up this even greater scene later on when he uses the recording, you know, to scare away. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't seen it so long, but yeah, right. It's not just an island to itself. It has a payoff.
And there was nothing like that in this movie. I felt like there was no, as far as storytelling go, there's no foreshadowing. There were no like scenes that grew. There were no characters that grew.
Yeah. And when they did, it didn't make sense why they did. So like, you know, oh, we've got the sister and her coin. It's just bad casting. Like, I just don't see that female. Like, I see a female flying that bomber. I do not see that female. Sorry, hate to break it to you. You know, like it's just not. I'm not buying this. So, anyways, she has that little coin or whatever, and
medallion or whatever.
Medallion, yeah. So her sister has the other half, and so then they set up this thing like, Benicio del Toro's greedy, so he has to take that. Then later on, he's using it to be a conductor, so he's really a nice guy. It's like, well, why would he even give it back if he was really a villain? You know, it's just like they just give and they take away, and then they give and then they take away. Again, it's like, oh, you thought it'd be a twist, it wasn't. Oh, it was. Not just kidding, it wasn't. It's like, oh, here comes Yoda. He's gonna burn the books because the Jedi Order are moving on, baby. And oh no, they're still here in the Millennium Falcon. Like, what? Like, I didn't even realize that was them. And then Melissa was like, oh yeah, the books were. I was like,
I know. What? I didn't get
that
it.
That totally undermines the whole point. Like, why you even have that dialogue then? It's just like giving and taking away, and so nothing means anything. So it's like when they do get a payoff, then they reverse it, and it reminds me of Lost in that sense. It reminds me of just soap operatic storytelling where, oh, this guy is a good guy. No, he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's actually good. Oh, he's learning. No, he's bad. Who cares?
Yeah, and to me, what really worked with the original ones, and I've thought a lot about this, what really worked is the math of it. The fact that you have these constants and that the Force is this unknown, not constant in between all these constants. But you gotta keep those constants constant though, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so the Force is this relational thing, it's this magic. That's what magic is. It's the ability to undermine math, but you have to have math there. You have to have
Yeah.
You have to have those archetypes to undermine. Otherwise, if you're just undermining everything, then it just
Right.
feels
You
like,
throw out, yeah. So there is no logic to character. There is no logic to plot. There is no logic to science. It's just
yeah,
it. Someone said this complaint about Doctor Who, that it's like the reason they hate Doctor Who is because it he can always just be like, oh, I got a gigawatts it, like he can just
yeah,
make up something or go back to time in this way. And the rules just kind of seem arbitrary and made up on the spot so many times. And
yeah.
that results in a lot of Deus Ex Machinas. Now, the strength of like Moffat's writing and some of those incarnations of the 11th, Doctor, 10th Doctor, Matt Smith. And then, so some of it works, like again in a context of one episode, but then when you start to extrapolate, you're like, oh my gosh, I mean, it is a soap opera, really.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Star Wars. It's gone beyond critical mass, past something that's iconic and timeless, and become a saga. And so with the point, once you become a saga, then you just have to unwrite rules, rewrite them, and break them, just in order to keep people entertained. So
Yeah.
it just becomes a substance abuse. It's not no longer an actual story, And
Oh,
so
what abuse?
it's just substance abuse.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
It's just dopamine. It's just, and
Yeah.
I feel like that problem afflicts anime, it afflicts comic books, and it afflicts Star Wars, because it's just coming to this point where, it's like, comic books, what are we gonna do with Captain America? Oh, Hail Hydra. I mean, where else can we go? I mean, so it's just like we just have to just undo everything. And like you said, nothing's constant. As long drama is the only constant, and that's just that's not myth. That's not story. That's just that is,
It's serial.
yeah. It's just what is the word? Dramatic masturbation is what it is. It's just nonstop going to continue this cycle of stuff just to keep you coming back, and that to me is just, it's cynical.
Yeah. All right. Well, what can we take away from all this?
Yeah, I would say make your own myth. I mean, for me, the reason why we love Star Wars is because Lucas had the balls to, primarily almost self-fund a lot of that first movie, or a lot of Star Wars, from his winnings from making American Graffiti, which is a fantastic movie, by the way. Haven't seen American Graffiti, got to go watch American Graffiti. It's awesome. It's great.
I have not seen it.
It's a perfect film. And it kind of, it really is a great movie about, I mean, it's probably one of the ultimate coming of age movies, really. It's fantastic. And it's got everybody in it. Richard Dreyfuss and Opie and even Harrison Ford. Yeah. Even Harrison Ford makes a little cameo there. So great movie. And from that, he was able to take his money from that film and make a Flash Gordon reinterpreted, retranslated into a new, wineskin, so to speak. And we're just all, refusing to get a new wineskin. For me, the new wineskin is Firefly Serenity. I think it's the best. I think it's the best evolution from Star Wars that we've had. And it manages, and because Fox destroyed it can contain its mythical quality, because we only have 13 or so episodes, and so I mean almost every single one of those is better than anything that's been done in the new Star Wars movies. I mean, like just one episode is better than the entire Star Wars movie. And then the Serenity film, it's the thing that I was talking about there. We need a new myth that can address the complexities of our era. Well, Serenity, the film, I mean, it is so prescient, so current. It's talking about the dangers of big government when it's trying to be good, and the dangers of humanity when we're trying to be good and we're trying to fix other people, and in the process we create something that we never thought that we would happen. And yeah, that movie not only is a good action movie, but it's a good philosophical movie, and it's actually deep sci-fi. So, and there are other good sci-fis out there. I mean, my mom is obsessed with The Expanse. I just can't quite get into it. It's just a little too, I don't know. It's just a little too something for me.
Are we talking about shows here? A show?
Yeah, it's a book series that they made into a show. I can't remember where it's being shown. Who's carrying that, but she's a diehard The Expanse fan. And then for me, yeah, if you're going to go if you need something to satiate to go deeper than what Star Wars can offer, I mean, you go to Philip K. Dick, and some of the, Bradbury and some of the classic sci-fi writers. That's what we need, I think, is, what Lucas and Spielberg did is they took the swashbuckling movies from their kids, from the time they were kids, and they were very serialized, but they managed to take that and make something art out of it. The original trilogy was an independent film trilogy masterpiece. It really was. There were very unconventional things done in the original Star Wars films. So he took something silly as Flash Gordon, made it, something that a kid version of him would like to see, but then also added art to it, and made it an art form. And, and him and Spielberg did, maybe not to the same degree with the Indiana Jones films. We'll only talk about the 3, but, took this swashbuckling 40s, Errol Flynn type of films and then made them into something for a new era. Like, we need to do the same thing with Star Wars. Leave it behind, make something new. Let's make something new and build off of it. I mean, you think about what Firefly Serenity is. All it is following Han Solo around, but in a different universe, and just reinterpreting things, not having aliens. So just putting at it from a different wrinkle. Like, yeah, let's take it and look at it from a different angle. But when you come in with all the expectations of Star Wars, yeah, it's just, you're never going to be able to make it right anymore. It's always going to be trying to get back at something, experience we've already had that was already better the first time.
Well, I think Hollywood is dead.
Yeah, it's dead.
It's dead. I think that when Hollywood starts to cow to certain political sides, try to be, when Hollywood becomes a medium for activism, as it has, I think, I think that's what really ruined this for me.
Right.
It's just, it's not storytelling, it's message forcing,
It's preaching. I mean, it's the same thing happens.
Yeah.
This is why you can't watch a Christian movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good there are moments in that movie, Fireproof. Like, there's actual moments of self-sacrifice, talking about relationships. But I mean, the movie is a sermon. Like, and so, you can show it to, your Christian Bible study group, but like, you show this to like an atheist, they're going to be like, oh my gosh. I mean, there's just way too much in that movie. It's just way too much, like trying to, force a narrative down. Like, that's not what movies are for. They're not meant to be sermons. And so we've gotten so many sermons in these last few years with these movies, and it's just getting painful,
Well, what do you think? Do you think that because I mean, one of the things that's killing Hollywood is Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, do you think that that something like Westworld, I haven't seen that, but
yeah, it's really good. Now, the thing I'll say about HBO, I mean, they have a really good ecosystem right now, but I feel like it is going to be crushed under its own weight at some point. Like, it's going to catch up with HBO and Netflix as well, because both HBO and Netflix are still thinking about this. HBO has never been a tech company, but they have been very innovative in the story. I mean, The Wire, arguably the best show of all time. I mean, Game of Thrones, for me, I'm one of those weirdos who thinks it's better than the books, like, just because it's compressed, and they've done such a good job just with so many aspects of it. And then Westworld's really good. Band of Brothers, John Adams. I mean, think about their track record. And a lot of the stuff I haven't even seen, but like, their track record is very good. But they are still coming at it from a mitigated version of what Hollywood did. It's still a studio system way of running content creation. Netflix may be a little more innovative in the way they're doing it, but they're still kind of a studio that just happens to also have a distribution platform. I think really the next phase is going to be more of what we see on the internet with, there's the guy Toby Fox. I believe he started off with something called Homestuck, and then he moved on to Undertale, which is a video game. And this Homestuck thing was, I mean, it created this whole fandom. Whole kinds of fandoms have like spawned out of this thing, and it was just basically a crappy looking webpage. And I feel like we have not seen the tip of the iceberg of the storytelling capabilities through the web,
Mm,
through, micro storytelling through Twitter,
mm,
micro storytelling through Snapchat, and we haven't really seen what YouTube's capable of, because YouTube has tried to copy Netflix.
mm.
That's the wrong model. Like, I really feel like we don't even know what's on the other side. The reason Hollywood's dying is not just because it's politicization; it's because it's very rigid understanding of how you make these things, and it refuses to say, oh, it is unionized, and so it
Mm,
refuses to ever take any part of anything out. Like, you're going to have to pay craft services this amount of money even though they're not worth that amount of money. You're going to have to pay that PA this amount of money even though he's not worth that amount of money. You're going to have to
mm.
pay that actor this amount of money even though he's not worth that amount of money. It's just a subsidized um, industry that can't compete with technology. So many of these jobs could be done by a computer by now, but they refuse to do it because they want, that it's an insider's game, and they're all living high on the hog inside their feudal system. So they don't want to take those walls down.
So why do you think that I remember about 10 years ago, what's that indie film production company that did Lost in Translation? I forget what they but a lot of these indie movies came out, and I thought, okay, this is the nail in the coffin. We're gonna see a revolution here of small filmmakers taking over. And it
Right.
didn't. It didn't happen. Why
Right.
not? Why hasn't it happened yet? I mean, the
Uh,
technology's there, the people are,
it's the same reason that, Web 2.0 just got co-opted by the big players. It's still, we're still not getting to the point where people believe enough in one another or in themselves to actually launch out on their own. Whenever I try to do a video, uh, there's just it's just like herding squirrels.
mm,
But as soon as like some big player comes in town and makes, it's a reality show or a film, people come out of the woodwork and they're like, volunteering time, like, oh, I want to have my name on the credits. And then you see the final film, you're like, okay,
mm,
okay, why did we believe that this thing was actually going to do anything? But because somebody has money, everybody, nobody.
yeah.
It's basically the rule in life is, they say nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. It's like, no, nobody cares what you know until they know you have money, and then like at that point, like, oh wow, this person must be smart. They've made money. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's
it's one of the phenomena I saw on YouTube myself is that unless you had views, you couldn't get views.
Yeah, it's you have to have money to make money. You have to have views to get views. You have to,
Hmm.
and it's like that on Facebook. I mean, Facebook is maybe worse than YouTube in terms of like the way that they uh how do you like sequester content? Basically, I mean, you only way you get out to be seen is to buy it now. Like, you're not going to show up in any people's feeds. I've got like 15,000 likes on my Facebook page. I don't know, a couple thousand or so, followers of my Facebook profile, and I'll post something on either one. It doesn't matter. It's just buried. Like, it's not
Mm,
even there. So
mm,
it's just, the only way to get out of it is to buy.
yeah.
So, they've become the gatekeepers of the web, but that's not what the web is. The web isn't AOL. The web never was AOL. The web is not Facebook. It's not Google. The
Mm,
web is the interconnectedness of all these networks all across the earth. And so the more that people can get out of this, centralized mindset saying that Hollywood, why we need to go to Hollywood to make movies. Why? The only reason you went to Hollywood 100 years ago is because the light was better.
mm,
That's the only reason. So the technological,
mm,
challenge has been overcome. The price has been overcome. We can make these things with our phones now.
mm,
So the whole reason to go to Hollywood does not exist. But YouTube is in Hollywood. YouTube copies Hollywood.
well, it became a
So it's
mecca.
just
You have this mecca mentality where people
right.
have to be somewhere. Although things are becoming
Yeah.
so much more decentralized now, I gotta believe that the wave is coming.
Yeah, the wave is coming, but I don't know. I don't know what will be the thing that undoes the log jam. Like, will it be,
Mm,
Bitcoin? Will it be this peer-to-peer sort of currency thing where we don't have to actually go through third parties? Will it be that, or will it be some other, application? That technology, Steam it is using like blockchain technology to be you know, content delivery service, you know, for people to have an easy way for them to get tipped. Like for now, like if I go and do a YouTube live show, well, I'm through another network. I'm through Fullscreen, and Fullscreen has never really been clear about whether that money is coming to me or not. You know, so
Hmm.
it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting, my channel's getting tipped, but is it actually coming to me? And you know,
Hmm.
and there's all kinds of these little back doors and things that they're not being honest about. And you know, a lot of people don't realize. I mean, Google takes 45% off the top of ad revenue,
Mhm.
and then if you have a network, then you get more off of that. So
Mm.
you know, there's just all kinds of ways that they're double dipping and triple dipping in these things to, you know, benefit themselves. And so in a lot of ways, they've become, you know, the studio systems for the internet age. But I really don't think that you know, they've built their little base, you know, their little base beachhead. But I just don't know if it's going to withstand the the assault of more people being educated on how to actually connect peer to peer. Like
Mm.
if you don't have a middleman, and that's been the third wave of web and apps has been Airbnb. You know,
Mhm.
it's been people connecting directly.
The
You know, as
brokers.
opposed right, like, but you know, there's still a middleman, but it's basically this person. Hey, this guy's got a house he's not using, and you know, you use it. You don't actually have to
Mhm.
even go through um, the service as much, you know, Uber, all
Mhm.
these kind of things. But eventually we may not even need the Uber or the Airbnb. It can actually be a protocol that unites us. It could be a technology that brings us together,
Mm.
not a gatekeeper, not a middleman. And so right now there are just so many middlemen in Hollywood and in the storytelling and entertainment industries that it really kind of comes down to rewarding the whole showbiz mentality, which is a lot of subsidy, a lot of overhead, a lot of people, and you know, they don't want that pie to go away. But I think technology will be the undoing. It's just I'm not really sure exactly when it's going to happen.
Hmm. Fascinating. By the way, on the point of um what's it called, Netflix and movies, did you see this Bright movie is out?
I saw it advertised, and you know, a lot of people were interested in it. I wasn't particularly interested in it, and I see that it's getting panned pretty bad.
It's getting slammed. And I didn't realize they are releasing it on the actual theaters. It's not.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought it was just a Netflix
I
deal.
saw somewhere that it's being released in the theaters, and I thought,
Oh, fascinating. That was a bad first one to pick, apparently.
and then also, have you seen the new Battlestar Galactica?
No, I never did. Yeah.
Man, dude, you talk about some. Now they didn't. I don't feel like they ended it. I don't know perfectly, but it's hard to end things. It had first of all, it had tracking through Lightspeed. It was the very first place. The first episode, called 33 seconds, is they have to go into Lightspeed every 33 seconds, and the bad guys catch up, and they're trying to figure out how to do it uh, without depleting their gas. It was so much better, way more intense and better than just, well, we'll just kind of keep out of
Go
their
for
way.
16 hours. It's so insipid. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around it. Oh, there's a planet nobody knows about. They won't see it on their sensors.
And do the bad guys, they don't have anybody else that could come like in front of them, like you
Well, they
said?
need it. So they have this thing in screenwriting, right? I think I might have mentioned it before. You hang a lantern on something. So when you hang a lantern on something, that means if somebody has a suspension of disbelief issue in the audience, you want to preempt it by having a character address it and then answer it. So you want to have somebody, you know, they
Mm.
tried to do that by saying, oh, well, it's like, we need to catch up with them. Well, sir, they have smaller ships and they're more maneuverable, which is stupid. It's in space. What? Small ships, more maneuver. What? What? Okay, fine. I'll give you that hang a lantern. So I'm suspending my disbelief on that one. But they needed to have someone else say, "Oh, this is only the last 3 ships that we have in the whole fleet, sir." Like because they destroyed them when they destroyed out the Star Killer base.
Yeah.
We were able to build this giant Star Killer base that can destroy everything in the galaxy, but we didn't make 2 more Superstar destroyers. We only built 1 with an easy weakness that could be destroyed.
Couldn't they have just taken that like door ramming thing, put it on the front of one of their ships and shot it at them? I mean,
we have Death Star technology, but we're only going to use it for a ram that we're only going to use like 1 time. But for space battles, we're never going to use it. Oh, but no, but see, they did have that. Oh my gosh, the whole.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like the your mama joke that delays them from shooting. Oh, and what is with the Harry Potter guy being such an idiot? Like, is that intentional?
Speaking of insipid, he's annoying. Why
is it intentional to be so stupid? I mean, it's like comical how dumb angry he is. Like, oh, time we're going to end. I mean, I was just like, what? He's from another universe, like out of a Star Wars universe.
There was when I say it was like a cartoon, there was just too much Disney like little jokes. Like the whole throwing the thing and the your mama joke and it's like it's funny, and I laughed. It was kind of funny, but it took me out of it. A lot of those little jokes took me out of it.
It took me out of it.
Well, so in the end, make your own myth, right? We gotta
make a new Star Wars here. Come on, like it's time. We need something else.
And maybe that's what this is leading to.
Yes, maybe that is.
If not, we're just hypocrites.
Well, we got to start somewhere. We'll start small. I'm like, let's not shoot for Star Wars yet. We'll shoot. I'm gonna shoot for Homestar Runner. Can I do something approximately as good as Homestar Runner, and then we'll build up from there. Because I feel like just having, just you think about how few websites there are on the internet that are actually unique to somebody. It's like we all just use these centralized things, and we're frustrated with how they work. We're frustrated with the way that they monitor them and the way that they police them and the decisions they make editorially. Google I'm serious. I swear. I think we've had this conversation that I'll do a web search. I'm like, there is no way this hasn't been searched. Like they are hiding something from me. This is not coming up. And and I've done searches across the years that I'm like, I know I found this before.
Well, why
fine coming up now?
I think that's a good place to go. Next week, let's talk about websites as an art form that, like we talked about currency, like we talked about the dollar. Let's talk about websites.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think that's the future. And really, honestly, when I was sitting there watching Star Wars, all I could think of the entire time was I've been like immersed in the whole Bitcoin drama. Like I'm investing in it, but like only to the limited degree that I can. Just having that in my head as I watch this, I'm just like, this is petty. We should be talking about they should have built a better technology by now. Like in this universe, like why have they not found other ways to solve these problems other than running and lightsabers and apparently bombs that follow gravity protocols in space? Like maybe there is another way to attack this. And having been paying more attention to the tech world in the last few months, I'm like, I just need to learn to code. Like that's apparently, forget screenwriting. The writing that really matters is learning these other languages.
Well, let's talk more about that. I'm sort of immersing myself deeper in that. I've been immersed in that for a while. It's with up to my knees maybe, but I'm going a little deeper, and I think it would be a good thing to talk about.
Yep, sounds good, man.
All right. Well, that concludes that discussion. And would you recommend this movie? I mean, after all that, or after
I guess,
to a child?
it just depends on, where you are. Like if you're someone who likes a summer blockbuster and you're not asking too many questions. If you like the Star Wars universe and you liked The Force Awakens, if you like The Force Awakens, then I think you might like this.
Yeah.
If you didn't like The Force Awakens, but you're happy with the other six, yeah, you might like this. Yeah, so I mean, it's fine. What I recommend people do is really really think through making your own myth. Like, how would you make
Yeah.
Star Wars better? Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I want to. I mean, you had an idea one time talking about like what you think Darth Vader should have been before he turned into Darth Vader, and your idea about it was better than anything that showed up in Lucas's version, in my opinion. Like, so I feel like we are coming into the crowdsourced age where the best idea could win rather than the author being in charge of where a story goes, and so
Mhm.
and and that's where tech kind of comes in, where the math really does kind of come in, like, oh well, this isn't a good idea. And right now what's really dictating the market is the money, and I don't think always the money is correct. I think there are actual rules that people buy stuff sometimes and they're wrong.
Yeah.
They invest in things that are dead ends, or that are bad for them. And so I feel like, yeah, ask yourself, how could I make this better? Because I think that's the bigger question here. Not, is the movie good? We're in a post critic world, and we're in a post curation world. We need to be in a collaborative, creative world. I
Yeah.
feel like.
And I think the point of our discussions here, the point of this podcast is you and I are people that want to engage in art, in movies, books, in entertainment, uh, on a higher level than just amusement. We want to intellectually engage with it. I was thinking about this. I was thinking both
Right.
of us want to engage. We have different. I see you as the dark side and me as the light side of intellectual. Intellectual. I'm much more like happy and like I like good
Right.
feelings and
Right.
and you like much more like, oh good, they destroyed that narrative, and or they really showed the evil of that, that piece of so but both of us, I think, I mean, I think we crave, and I think that's what I hope that we can get an audience of people that not that learn anything particularly from us, but join us in a desire to pick things apart and intellectually engage with
Right.
these
Well, and
with
to
this
take it
media,
as and to take it our own steps with this stuff. I mean,
like you were saying. Yeah.
Schumann was a music critic, but he was also a musician and a composer. And I feel like we've kind of lost that art. We've kind of schismed these disciplines, and it isn't helpful. I think you need to be a critic and you need to be a practitioner.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're kind of gotten into these. This lends itself to this whole walled off gatekeeper model, in which you got a distributor, you've got a producer, you've got an investor, you've got a critic, and you've got an audience.
Mhm.
Oh, let's all be all of those things at once. Let's all be all of those things. Put our money where our mouth is. Like, let's
Mhm.
invest in the art that we actually believe in. Let's
Mhm.
critique the art we want to see better. Like, let's do all these things at once. Let's try to make our own. Let's put our money where our mouth is and say, like, I'm gonna, Lucas put his money where his mouth is. He didn't see a anybody filling in the gap and making a Flash Gordon, so he made his own. And like, I think a lot of us are sitting here saying, yeah, I'm not seeing Star Wars. Like, we
Mhm.
should make our own.
Yep.
So, and there should or can be ways to do that on low budgets, and that's what he did. What Lucas
Yep.
did for
And
$10 million, he made
and
Star Wars,
and
and
what
that's
Joss Whedon did.
yeah. I mean, Lucas did it with $10 million, which in '70s money, I mean, that's more money
Yeah.
than 10 million is now. But 10 million, a lot of it of his own money,
Wow.
and today, I mean, you look, these movies aren't being made for less than $200 million.
Yeah. This was
It's just
250, I think. 250 for
yeah,
this Star Wars.
it's just so much graft and there's so much waste.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's great. Let's go into our lives this next week. Really, I challenge you, and I hear you challenging me. Not that we're building a better us, but we're better. We're building.
Right.
This is, we're better than this. Let's build.
Yeah, that's right. We are better than. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Like we don't have as much money, but we got the ideas, we got the mind, and nothing is has. There's not been a more powerful tool in the history of the world than the internet for getting things out of your mind
Yeah.
and to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, the printing press revolutionized the Renaissance age. It paved the way for that possibility for people to get information to each other and to share it. And now we have something way more powerful than printing press. And a lot of times we get suckered into using it for consumption only, and instant gratification. And there's something much better than that here.
Amen. So let's go and let's do.
All right.
And next week we'll talk about websites.
Sounds good.
The website.
The website.
All right. Well, what did we ever figure out?
I say we just ended up saying make your own myth.
All right. Well, go and make your own myth. We need something else.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We need something to say leading up that. Well, continue your reverse redacting and make your own myth.
Hey, I like that. And yes, let's do it.